Well, it appears Dr. Fauci, the EcoHealth Alliance, the Wuhan Lab and Institute of Virology, as well as Peter Daszak and the possibility of the lies that could have been sold to us around the era of the COOF is once again a topic of conversation. And why might that be? Well, it appears a new House panel has recently tore into one of Anthony Fauci's advisors and co-workers, and in doing so, well, they've been able to find some revealing information. That is something that is quite fascinating because it appears that every single turn that you take down this rabbit hole, there's always something more to be revealed to show you that what you had presented to you during that of the COOF era was nothing more than felonious lies, to say the least. Now let's go ahead and jump in and see what we've got with the next explosive information surrounding that of the COVID era. We've got a couple of articles we're going to go ahead and jump into real quick, but realistically only one of them we'll be diving into. But these articles I figured were actually some of the best that were provided that I was able to find. So if you're curious, link in the description down below, you will be able to go find them. Let's jump in. Here we see from the New York Times, health officials tried to evade public records, lawmakers say. NIH officials suggested federal record keepers helped them hide emails. If so, that's really damaging to trust in all of government, one expert said. Well, realistically, I myself already had zero trust in all of government, so you're not helping yourself at all here. Jumping on here, we see from science.com, House panel takes Fauci advisor to task for allegedly evading public records law. Hearing lambasting federal scientists follows suspension of EcoHealth Alliance president Peter Daszak. And that is the big one to pay attention to, that Peter Daszak was suspended from EcoHealth, which, by the way, if you are unaware, he is someone who is very closely knitted and in conjuncture when it comes to the factor of working with Dr. Anthony Fauci. Of course, Fauci never actually being given any form of, let's say, culpability for any of the nonsense that he assisted in thrusting upon civil society, whether it be the experimental gene therapy, the lockdowns that destroyed the economy, and now we see the consistent and ever increasing toll that they took on civil society. But does it matter to people like that of Dr. Anthony Fauci? No, because he's the science, you see.
But they're really criticizing science because I represent science.
If you're vaccinated, you really don't need to worry about getting it in a way that's serious or transmitting it.
That is true. That is correct, Chris. It'll either protect you completely against infection, and the chances are very likely that you'll not be able to transmit it to other people. The risk is extremely low of transmitting it to anybody else. Full stop. Vaccinated people are clearly capable of transmitting the infection. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better. If people are not wearing masks, then maybe we should be mandating it. I often myself wear 2 masks.
And I'm quoting you now, at the population level, masks work at the margins, maybe 10%. To hear that they only work at the margins, maybe 10%, would make a lot of people ask, okay, then why was I wearing a mask?
You're really attacking not only Dr. Anthony Fauci, you're attacking science when you say that this is going to go away tomorrow like magic, when you know that there's no chance it's going to just disappear.
We hope this just goes away, burns itself out.
So my question is, why weren't you straight with the American people about this to begin with?
So the bottom line is, it's a guesstimate. I gave a range.
It seemed in that quote to suggest that you were basing your recommendation on polling and what people could accept. Is that not what you meant?
No, I mean, it's a bit of that.
We're seeing all of these school closures around the country. Is that the right move for children and families?
And I think what's going on right now is generally an appropriate approach. You want to start doing something to socially distance yourself. How dramatic that is, closing schools and doing other things, should be proportionate.
It went too far, that particularly for kids who couldn't go to school except remotely, that it's forever damaged them.
Well, I don't think it's forever irreparably damaged anyone.
The U.S. Surgeon General has called it an urgent public health crisis, a devastating decline in the mental health of kids across the country. According to the CDC, the rates of suicide, self-harm, anxiety, and depression are up among adolescents.
And the record will show, Neil, that we didn't recommend shutting everything down. First of all, I didn't recommend locking anything down. I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. And that was a very difficult decision because I knew it would have serious economic consequences, which it did.
Yeah. Because if you look at the people that are politicizing me, there's somebody that all the way over on one level. But there are a lot of other people who look upon me the way they should, as a non-political person that I am.
They're not doing it because they say they don't want to do it. They're Republicans, they don't like to be told what to do. And we got to break that. But now is the time to do what you're told.
Where did this virus come from, do you think, today? Did it come from a lab? Was it man-made?
When you have the animal-human interface and you have animals that come out of the wild that are sold at these open, what they call them, wet markets.
Place of origin was not within the market itself.
No, I don't think you could say that.
There's a report today that another intelligence arm of the U.S. government, this is inside our energy department, has joined the FBI in concluding that COVID began with a lab leak in China.
That the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
We now know that a bat coronavirus was enhanced in a lab. The National Institutes of Health acknowledged that it funded research of a virus that was studied at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The experiment unexpectedly, we're told, made a bat coronavirus more contagious than the original naturally occurring one.
Take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about.
They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
What we're talking about now is the gain-of-function research in studies that increase predominantly the transmissibility, as well as pathogenesis and alteration of host range of the virus.
Nobody is lying here, Senator. It is you. I have to laugh at that. I should be prosecuted.
Good golly fucking gosh, I hate that man so much. You have absolutely no idea the degree with which how much I despise Tony Fauci. This man, nay, this demon, is quite literally someone who preyed upon children and did so knowingly and uncaringly. And that's what's so big to pay attention to here, because one of the things, if not the one thing that I hate more than anything, is someone who would prey upon a child. Someone who quite literally deserves less than nothing, and I would argue the worst of whatever reality could possibly have visited upon them. But here's the deal. What did Anthony Fauci do? Well, Tony here, he sat there and advocated for policies that consistently ruined the lives of hundreds of millions of children, and in doing so escalated that of, I don't know, childhood depression and suicide through the roof to the point where it is now an epidemic itself. Isn't that just remarkable? Of course, he'll never actually admit culpability in any of the responsibility that he wields in advocating for the policies that caused something like this, that destroyed these children's lives and their fragile psyche. No, he'll gladly sit there and tell you that he is the science, though. I utterly despise this man. Anyways, moving on now, here we see, at the NIH, a scandal grows around an official's evasion of public records law. After a top aide to Anthony Fauci was grilled by Congress, questions emerge as to whether others may have sought to avoid transparency around the COVID epidemic. And obviously they sought to avoid transparency around this. The fact that you even have to frame it like this is unbelievable. That, well, is it possible that there are others that could have done something similar to this? Just look at the narratives we had sold to us, and it's obvious. But the thing is, when you're seeing something like this from The Nation, this is the place where normies go to get their news. And if normies are seeing something like this where they're like, whoa, did these people try and avoid transparency and not tell the truth? But the government always tells the truth. And so does the media. The person on the television in front of me on the screen that's sitting there in the suit telling me the news, well, they're telling me the truth. And I know that because I myself, I would never just go over to my neighbor's house and go lie to them for the simple factor of having a way to manipulate them and have power over them so I could control how they perceive the world. That's not something that a good person would do. And because the good person who is sitting there thinking that no one would ever do that to them because they wouldn't do it to someone else is consistently within the mindset of thinking people operate like they do. They do not understand the nature of how truly duplicitous those within power actually are. And this is why they believe politicians are these benevolent figures, civil servants, you see, when they are quite literally the mafia in the limit. Politicians and government is quite literally the mafia that won, and there are people that think that these individuals are more holier than you and I, solely for the fact that they are signing off on bills that caused the death of millions of people throughout the 21st century. Unironically, there are people that operate within this mindset, and it's truly and genuinely despicable. But nonetheless, I digress. We move on now to something that I wanted to go ahead and dive into. The only article I actually wanted to jump into, as I've already stated, the articles that I've had here realistically conveying similar points, but the fact is that they were actually worth tackling because of the little things that they had presented, as well as the little bits that they dive into. If you want to check that out, like I've already stated, link in the description down below, you can go ahead and check that out. Now we jump on Newsweek, and here we see, Fauci aide sparks new investigation. Yes, a new investigation, you see. And of course, what we can understand is that it's going to be government investigating government and finding out that government did absolutely nothing wrong. Here we see a potential conspiracy at the highest levels of the National Institute of Health is being investigated according to an announcement Tuesday. The House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, led by Republican Rep. Brad Wenstrup, announced the investigation is regarding the use of encrypted private email accounts, forwarded confidential information, and the intentional misspelling of words to avoid the Freedom of Information Act, which is FOIA. The new investigation comes after Dr. Anthony Fauci's senior advisor, Dr. David Morenz, recently testified and released thousands of emails and documents to the committee. The emails suggested that Morenz deleted government emails, sought help to avoid FOIA protocol, conducted official business on his own personal email, and avoided public transparency related to the COVID-19 pandemic. That's right. They were quite literally restructuring the words that they were using, misspelling them so that word checks couldn't actually properly associate what they were talking about, so they could hopefully skate by any culpability. And as we can see, it wasn't enough. Jumping over here, we see Wenstrup sent 2 letters on Wednesday in relation to the new investigation. One to NIH Director Dr. Monica, I can't pronounce that, and another to Archivist of the United States, Colleen Shogan. To the lady I can't pronounce, Wenstrup outlined the select subcommittee's finding that Morenz email and testimony attaching screenshots of Morenz emails. The committee included a screenshot of an email with Morenz on February 24th, 2021, which says, "I learned from our FOIA lady here how to make emails disappear after I am FOIA'd, but before the search starts, so I think we are all safe." And he does this in an open email, not realizing that he's giving away the game. I love boomers using technology because they don't know a fucking thing about it. Here we see the letter alleges that the NIH and FOIA office may have been complicit in the destruction of official records. In addition, it cites several examples of NIAID employees using apparent intentional misspellings to avoid FOIA searches, using Fauci's former chief of staff, Greg Folkers, as an example where he wrote, "I think comes from eek," and then squiggle health, which is a tilde for those that are unaware, instead of eco health. So obviously there are little things that they're trying to do to avoid culpability so they can still have these conversations in the back channels through that of government communication line. But alas, it wasn't enough. And in the end, like I've already stated, this is going to be another instance of government investigating government and finding out government did nothing wrong. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you for watching if you got this far. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section down below. Stay lovely, stay great, and most importantly, as always, lads, tell someone you love them. Peace out.